News Talk 94.5 WPTI, 96.7 FM WTOB. You're listening to the Wealth Guardian Show with Doug Ray, helping you retire the job and keep that paycheck. This morning you have Garrett Ray, and with me is Brice Payne, and we're talking about we are sorting through the mailbag and answering listener questions. How you doing, Brice?
Well, I'm doing all right, Garrett. Watched the Broncos annihilate the Rams in a preseason game number 3 last week. What was it, 41-0? So I think I'm just going to call the season quits right there, end on a high note. That was as good as it's going to get for the whole year. I'm pretty confident.
The preseason hype is real.
How about you? How are you doing?
Good, man. It's, at least for me, me and the wife-to-be are 3 weeks out from the wedding.
Congratulations.
So, yeah.
Getting nervous yet?
It's more of getting all the logistics sorted.
Yeah.
It's kind of a little bit, we're kind of at that point where, she told me the other evening, hey, I'm kind of over it. And I was like, yeah. I've been there a while.
Oh, Belle was definitely at that stage last year for me. Yeah. She was thinking, let's just get this over with already.
Yeah.
So, all right. Yeah. Well, hopefully Adalia, is that the name of this little storm that just passed through?
Yeah.
Hopefully that didn't mess, because that went right over where you're going to be getting married there in upper Florida.
Yeah, we're Amelia Island, north of Jacksonville, so Atlantic side. The hurricane made landfall on the Gulf side, although North Florida for sure. But we haven't heard any emergency message from the venue or anything.
Hey, change your date.
Yeah, haven't heard any of that. So,
all right, very good.
Holding out hope.
All right. Well, congrats both to you and Cindy there. I'm sure you're looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, you know what I'm looking forward to, and everyone else out there is looking forward to, is the mailbag. But before we get to the mailbag, let's do out our Wealth Guardian service salute to all of our men and women in uniform out there. As always, if you listen to this radio show in and out every week, you know what we do right now. We throw out that acknowledgement to all of our men and women in uniform who sometimes go in harm's way and certainly make sacrifices with the families to do what they need to do for the Stars and Stripes, and we want to thank you for that. It's not always an easy job, and a lot of times it's a thankless job, so thank you for putting on that uniform. We appreciate you, and Garrett and Doug and I are doing that. Wealth Guardian service salute to you for doing that. And we will next week and the week after that as well.
Yep.
All right, Garrett, so let's dip into that mailbag. And we've got a first one here. This is Bruce. And Bruce is coming to us from Eagle Mills. And by the way, let me just, before we even get to Bruce's question, let me just mention to everybody, if you want to email a question to Garrett, Doug, and myself, all you have to do is email info@thewealthguardians.com. Throw out your question there for us. Give us as much information as you can. Sometimes people are light on the details, and when you're light on the details, that means our answer is just going to be it depends.
That's right.
We don't want a 30-minute show of it depends. So give us as much details as you can. We'll see if we can help you out there. No cost, no obligation to throwing out that question to us. But we got Bruce in Eagle Mills, Garrett, and Bruce says, I fear a recession. Okay, well, a lot of us do. Yeah. So I might stop contributions to my 401k for a while. Good idea? All right, Garrett, you want to field that one?
Yeah, I'll take a crack at it first. I mean, the first thing I would kind of want to know, Bruce, what stage of life are we in? Are we 35 years old? Are we 55 years old? Are we 65 years old?
Great question. What's your time horizon is basically what's behind that question.
Yep, perhaps. As a general rule, at least I'm of the camp, particularly if your employer has a contribution match, I would say, no, do not stop your contribution. Okay. Let's just say, hypothetically, your employer will match dollar for dollar up to 4% of your annual salary.
Kind of a typical one.
Yep. I would absolutely, at a minimum, contribute that 4%. Don't say no to free money. And if we go through a rough patch in the markets and, a lot of the major indices take a pretty big dip, then you're conceivably buying more shares of whatever mutual fund you're allocated into in your 401k at cheaper prices. And then comes in that time horizon. If we have the ability to let that grow and rebound from when it's taken a dip, then that can be advantageous for you down the road. So that would be kind of my 30,000 foot view of how to answer that question.
Yeah, and I would concur, Bruce, with Garrett there. We want to break that into two concepts. Should you stop your contributions, and should you move your allocation inside the portfolio?
Yes.
Your dollar cost averaging right now, which is a sound way to buy at a steady price. So when the market is down, that's actually a great time to keep buying shares, to keep contributing to your 401k. Other question.
Buy low, sell high.
Right. The other question you didn't ask that I think might be a little bit more relevant is, should you be moving your investments inside your 401k into something like a money market or some type of stable value fund inside your 401k if you truly do fear a recession coming up? And that's really about timing the market. And I'm not sure I'm a big fan of that. But if you were really confident, or your risk tolerance was so low that you didn't want to face a 10, 20, 30% loss in your 401k, then yeah, maybe change your allocation for the time being. But again, I'm not a big fan of that. But sometimes you got to do things to satisfy your risk tolerance or your limited risk tolerance.
I would agree.
So great question, Bruce. Thank you for that, and thank you for listening. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Wealth Guardians Show with Doug Ray, and in the studio this morning is Garrett Ray and myself, Brice Payne, and we're taking questions from our listener mailbag that kind of fills up every once in a while. So we're kind of trying to thin that out here. And after Bruce, now we're going to go to our next listener, and he's in Kernersville, and it's Harvey. Harvey in Kernersville says, Garrett and Doug and Brice, part of me really wants to retire. Okay. But I've gotten pretty used to having a paycheck for the last 40 years, and I can't imagine not having one, even though I have savings. How do people ever get comfortable with the idea of not having money coming into their checking account every month?
Yep.
Harvey, awesome question. Really good question. And I've got a short answer for you, but I'm going to let Garrett answer first.
Yeah, so this is a pretty common mental and, let's face it, emotional hurdle for many people when they have finally decided, or sometimes out of necessity, they have to, hang up the job, so to speak. Then they start looking around and saying, well, what next? And there's a couple different income streams that most people know about, one being Social Security when we get into retirement age. But the other one is, we've done a pretty good job here of working a long, hard career, and we have retirement accounts along the way, whether that be a 401k, 403b. Some of us are entitled to different pensions. Now it's time to turn on that faucet and start using those accounts for their very purpose, which was to help you through your retirement years. I would certainly want to tap the shoulder of a financial planner to understand, hey, what do I have? How is it allocated from a tax standpoint? Because a lot of these accounts are taxed differently. So let's understand that. And how can this best be planned and utilized for me or potentially my spouse to help offset some costs in retirement? I know I've got Social Security. Let's talk about a filing strategy there. And then how can we take distributions from the various accounts that we have to help meet our needs? And so that's essentially step one, perhaps two, getting a little bit down the discussion of where the money flows would be coming from. But let's at least understand what we have. Let's take a survey of what we have to work with first, would be my question, or would be my retort there.
Yeah, I concur with that completely. Harvey, your question was, how do people ever get comfortable with the idea of not having money coming into their checking account every month? And the short answer is because they go and see a financial professional, a fiduciary who is a retirement specialist, perhaps has the retirement income certified professional certification that we at the Wealth Guardians have here. That's how they get comfortable with the idea, because we can run the numbers for them in these great software programs that we have and show them when money could run out and if they need to work longer, or my goodness, they could have retired a couple of years ago and been spending the money that they wanted to in retirement and still not run out of money. So that's how people get comfortable with it, Harvey. They go and see a fiduciary financial planner, a retirement specialist. That's who we are here at the Wealth Guardians. So let me give you our phone number. It's 336-391-3600. 3409. It's 336-391-3409. You can also reach out to us at The Wealth Guardians. Come in, sit down with us, let us run some numbers, let us evaluate your tax mitigation strategies, your portfolio allocation, the risk that you've got on your portfolio, your withdrawal strategy. A lot of times people don't even have those. They don't have a tax mitigation strategy in place. They don't have a withdrawal strategy in place. Well, let's put one in place for you. There is no cost or obligation to sit down with us, so the only thing that you've got to lose is your time and your gas money to get to our offices, which, by the way, are in Clemens underneath the giant water tower there. And keep in mind, I'll say this as well. You can always tune into this video broadcast of this episode on our YouTube channel at The Wealth Guardians. If you want to see our studio and our investment quote of the week, it's sitting right here in front of me and Garrett. You can also catch our most recent episodes of the Vault video series, where we break down individual topics on all things pertaining to retirement planning. Just another way, if you don't want to just listen to us, but you want to watch us, well, there you go. That's how you can do it. But Andy, thank you for your question. Harvey, thank you for your question. It is a really, really good question there, and I love the answer that we're able to give you there. We don't have time for Andy's question in this segment. We're going to come back to Andy in the second segment. We are going to go to break here, but before we go to break, Garrett's got the trivia question of the week for me.
Absolutely. So we had touched on it a little bit earlier, but it's that time of year again, Brice, and so we're all gearing up for football, both college and professional.
I'm ready.
My question to you is more on university ball here, and the question is simple. These three universities all have the same mascot, and which one is it? We're talking Rice University, Oregon Tech University, and Temple University. They all have the same mascot, and it is either A, they are the Falcons, B, they are the Ducks, C, they are the Hawks, or D, they are the Owls.
Oh, that's a great question. Okay.
Rice University, Oregon Tech University, and Temple University.
If you'd asked me who the banana slugs were, I could have answered that question. All right, well, stick around for the answer to that trivia question and see if Garrett stumped me on the other side of this break. This is Brice Payne. With me is Garrett Ray. The show's The Wealth Guardians, helping you retire the job and keep the paycheck. And this is News Talk 94.5, WPTI. And this is 96.7 FM, WTOB. News Talk 94.5, WPTI, 96.7 FM, WTOB. You're listening to The Wealth Guardian Show with Doug Ray, helping you retire the job and keep the paycheck. I'm Brice Payne, along with Garrett Ray in the studio this morning. And in the second segment, we're going to continue taking questions from our listener mailbag. Now, you heard Garrett ask me the trivia question. And I'm going to see if I got that right, but I'm hoping you're going to get the answer right to two questions I've got for you. Are you looking forward to your retirement? All right, bing, bing, you got that right. Do you want to make sure that you're making the best financial decisions for your retirement? Well, of course you got that right. Nobody's going to answer no to that, right? So if you answered yes to those questions, then Garrett and I have great news for you. We here at the Wealth Guardians offer a no-cost, no-obligation second opinion of your retirement plan. That includes a deep analysis of your assets, an investment portfolio, your insurance policies, your income needs, your risk tolerance, your risk exposure, your tax mitigation strategies, your legacy goals, and the fees you are currently paying. And our goal is simple. We want to help you lower your fees, align your risk, and improve your overall retirement picture so you can indeed retire the job and keep the paycheck. But as always, the ball is in your court. It's up to you. You got to give us a call. I can't reach out to you. Garrett can't reach out to you. We don't know your number, but you know ours. It's 336-391-3409. 336-391-3409. Give us a call or visit us at thewealthguardians.com to set up your financial plan review with Doug, Garrett, and myself today. As always, I want to remind you, the markets aren't going to wait for you. Okay, let's go ahead and get to the answer of that trivia question.
Yeah, absolutely. Brice, we here at the Wealth Guardians, like most people out there, we are gearing up for football season.
We're even wearing our jerseys, our Wealth Guardians football jerseys.
That's right. And so I thought it was appropriate to do a little football trivia question here. And the question is this. The following three universities have the same mascot. Rice University, Oregon Tech University, and Temple University.
Okay.
Your choices are they A, the Falcons, B, the Ducks, C, the Hawks, or D, the Owls?
So one of the choices was Oregon Tech.
Oregon Tech.
All right. So I seriously doubt that Oregon Tech is going to have the Ducks.
Ah, there you go.
So I'm going to wipe
reasoning there. You're correct there.
I'm going to wipe that one off the books. I would think if the answer was Falcons, you would have included the Air Force Academy in there. So I'm going to scratch the Falcons off of that.
Okay.
So then we've got the Owls and the Hawks.
Owls and the Hawks.
And one of the universities was Temple.
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 Yep.
I think Temple's smart enough not to go with the Owls, so I'm going to say the Hawks.
That would not be correct.
Oh.
Yep. No, they are, in fact, the Owls.
Temple? Wow. Yeah. You let me down, buddies. I would have thought you knew better than that. By the way, if you the banana slugs that I mentioned earlier, that's Santa Cruz.
I did not know that at all.
Banana Cruz,
you would have gotten me.
UC Santa Cruz, and a banana slug is actually a giant slug, yellow in color, bright yellow, that lives out in the redwood forest.
Oh, okay.
And there's
banana slug.
There's a legend that you're supposed to kiss one of those, get the slime all over your lips, and that's good luck. So I am actually a member of the Banana Slug Club.
Fair enough. Okay. There we go.
TMI.
Learning a lot about Brice this morning.
All right. Okay. Let's move on to Andy. We mentioned Andy in the first segment. We're going back to the mailbag here. Andy's probably not a member of the Banana Slug Club, but Andy in Burlington asks us, Doug, Garrett, and Brice, I'm 60 and I'd love to retire right now. I know I don't have enough money to last the rest of my life. Okay, so he knows that. He knows he doesn't have enough money to last the rest of his life. But I should get a sizable inheritance from my mother whenever she passes. She's in her early 90s, so I don't expect her to be around that much longer. I don't want to make it sound like I'm just waiting for her to pass on, because that's not the case at all. But do you think I'm safe to go ahead and retire with the expectation of getting money from her in the next decade? Boy. I'll start that one off because I let Garrett start off some of the others. Andy, that is a big assumption. I guess I'd ask you, how certain are you of that? And we're going on an assumption here, one, that there is going to be, the inheritance will actually come through, and the time frame of when it will come through. I mean, it's not unusual today for somebody to live in their hundreds. So
yeah, sure.
For me, the answer would really say, let's depend. Let's bring you in here into the office and plug in all of your information, which includes your Social Security filing strategies. What kind of IRA to Roth conversion strategies can we factor in there so that you're paying Uncle Sam as little as possible? Do you have any other forms of income in retirement, pensions, or maybe you've got some rental income, something like that we can fall back on? I'd really want to run the numbers in the assumption that you're not going to get as much as you thought, or you're not going to get it in the time factor that you thought.
Right.
And let's see if that's a safe bet to place. Then we can probably get closer to answering that question. So I don't have enough information right here. Garrett, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's a lot to dive in here, in my opinion. The first thing that I keyed into was, Andy's only 60 years old, so he's not even 62 yet, which is the earliest one can file for Social Security. So perhaps, he's got a fairly low amount of expenses at this point in his life, and so Social Security might be enough, but that's still 2 years away. I liked what you talked about, Brice, as far as he may not have a ton saved up in actual savings or retirement accounts, but perhaps he's entitled to some sort of pension out there that could help him along the way. Okay, now we're starting to get somewhere where we've got an income stream coming to us that could potentially bridge that gap until we're eligible for Social Security, at least at age 62. The other thing that I'm concerned about, and I share your concern, Brice, is it sounds like your mother is in relatively good health now. We all know that healthcare expenses are some of the most expensive things that one can encounter in their later years.
Great point.
And inflation on healthcare is higher than typical inflation for the rest of the consumer price index.
Right.
So if his mom in her later years starts to suffer more, could some of that inheritance be burned away for her own medical expenses? It might not be something
that has happened to many, many people.
Yep. There's a lot. If we don't have a plan in place for medical expenses later in life, it is one of the things that can burn through a retirement plan and retirement savings quicker than anything else.
Faster than anything.
Because I'm sure Andy obviously wants his mom to get good care if she needs it. And so, of course, Mom, go ahead, use your own money. Let's do what we can. Of course, the kids are going to help out where they can. But all of these factors could reduce the amount of money that Andy thinks he has available to him when his mom passes. So a lot to chew on that. But hopefully Brice and I gave you a couple good things to consider there.
Yeah, Andy, thanks for the question, and I look forward to seeing you give us a call so we can schedule a time for your no-cost, no-obligation review and see if indeed you can retire now if that's what you want to do, and that, according to you, is what you want to do. So let's see if we can put that in place for you. Mm-hmm. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Wealth Guardians Show with Doug Ray. In the studio today is Garrett Ray and myself, Brice Payne. We're dipping into the mailbag questions here, and we're going to move on past Andy in Burlington and now move to Vicky in Walnut Cove. And Vicky says, Garrett and Doug, how can I tell? Hey, there's no Brice in there. It says Garrett and Doug, huh? Yeah. How can I tell if a financial advisor is actually qualified or not? Apparently, she doesn't consider me qualified. My brother-in-law just informed us that he's now a financial advisor, but just a month ago, he was calling himself a life coach who happened to work part-time at Starbucks. Oh, my heavens. So if he's a financial advisor all of a sudden, it makes me skeptical of the entire industry. Yeah, Vicky, okay.
Yeah.
Garrett, you want to help Vicky out there on how to ascertain who is a real financial advisor and who's just kind of putting up the shingle?
Yeah, there's a couple of different questions you can ask. The most kind of basic one you can ask is, hey, what kind of tests have you passed? Most financial advisors out there, in fact, all financial advisors out there, have to pass either a Series 65, a Series 66, or a Series 7, depending on how their licenses are.
So you hold those licenses, yeah?
Yeah. You can ask your brother-in-law, are you under the fiduciary standard or the suitability standard? That's a completely different ball of wax, depending on how he answers that.
And I would wager that if it was just a month ago, according to Vicky, it was just a month ago that he was working at Starbucks. Then he's either been working on those licenses for a while, because you didn't just pass that test in 1 month.
You don't just pick up and pass that test. Yeah.
Okay.
And then the other thing, if you wanted to go even a deeper dive, although I doubt if it's just been a month ago, there's some additional certifications. Is he an RICP? Is he a CFP? There are additional advanced certifications that a financial advisor can have. Yep. So ask all those questions and gauge his response.
And I would add this, Vicky, if you're ever thinking of trusting the industry at all and not being skeptical of it, the very first question I would suggest you ask somebody if you're thinking about sitting down with them is, are you obligated to operate on the fiduciary standard? Yes. And what that means is, does that person hold certain licenses that requires them to put the best interest of the client ahead of their own? Mm-hmm. Now, that sounds like a no-brainer. Everyone would want a doctor to be recommending a procedure because it's in your best interest, not because he's going to get paid for it, right? Yep. And likewise, you'd want to sit down with a financial planner who's making recommendations because it's in your best interest, not because they're making a certain commission off of something. Right. So ask, are you obligated to operate on the fiduciary standard? If they answer yes, then sit down with them and see if it's a personality match for you, if you like their approach to financial planning. If they answer, well, no, I work on the suitability standard, well, then that's something to consider, because that's not the same standard as a fiduciary standard.
Yeah, I would agree.
All right. Garrett, I'm afraid Vicky's question there is the last question of the day that we've got time for. We bumped
up against the clock there.
But I mentioned this in the first segment. I'm going to mention it again. You listen to this radio show on your radio device, and you're thinking, gosh, I wonder what Garrett and Brice are wearing today, or I wonder what is that quote of the week that they've got in the studio that they always talk about, or what's that book of the month that they've got sitting on their shelf there. We're not going to tell you. The only way for you to figure that out and to see that and to see our really, really cool Wealth Guardians football jerseys is to go to our YouTube channel at The Wealth Guardians. Go to YouTube and then just type in at The Wealth Guardians, and you'll see a whole breakdown of the last 3 years of our radio shows. So you can see Garrett and myself, or Doug and myself, or Doug and Garrett in the studio. And then you can also tune into our Vault video series, which you're not going to catch on the radio. And that's where we break down individual topics on all things pertaining to retirement planning. Good little short segments there. We're just kind of sharing some of our knowledge that we have on the topic of retirement planning. But other than that, we encourage you, like always, to give us a call, 336-391-3409. If you'd like to sit down with us, said it many times, no cost, no obligation. Unfortunately, that's all the time we're going to have this week. So thank you for joining us. We hope the rest of your weekend is everything you want it to be, whether your football team is a falcon, a hawk, a duck, or or an owl or whatever it is.
Or a banana slug.
Or a banana slug. We wish your team the very best of luck. This is Brice Payne along with Garrett Ray. The show is The Wealth Guardians, helping you retire the job and keep the paycheck. And remember, sound financial plans do not create themselves. This is News Talk 94.5 WPTI. This is 96.7 FM WTOB.